What does a quote from CEO Shams Georgiani in September 2025, CCO Pilestedts in December 2025, Heavy Thief support modifiers, games director Mikkel Eriksson on the Main Quest podcast, and Lord of the Rings have in common? Well, hopefully you're here to find that out. The Illuminate Void biome brings an interesting new sci-fi horror look that I'm quite a fan of, and along with all this, we have a new number of missions, 4 in total, that can be found within the Infiltrate Illuminate lair. In this particular mission, they're introducing a randomized set of primary objectives, moving away from linear mission structures to keep every drop unpredictable. Although this is exclusive to the Void, this new RNG method of creating some longevity to our time in this part of the story arc leads me to look at this like some form of endgame content being tested. The purpose is for missions to always be a variety, but with that comes potential bugs, and already Cloud Plays has reported that the random number generator used to pick the missions might be a little bit balked at the moment.
For those of you guys at Arrowhead watching this is probably not nailed down so well. I think we've had a repeat of the exact same missions inside of these about 4 times before we managed to get a destroyed Gazer Spire.
Very thankful to Cloud Plays for pointing that out in a video and addressing it to Arrowhead. But what's nice also is Mitchimus has taken note and he's going to forward this to the developers, which is great news. So, randomized objectives within a mission is most certainly a way to keep endgame players occupied for a little while. But to me, this almost feels like a testing ground for potential future additions or content to the game that has a new feeling every time you drop in. At least that's the plan. Back in September 2025, Shams Georgiani responded to Discord messages that were asking about the possibility of large-scale maps with an extra squad and multi-faction warfare, to which Shams responded bluntly in that such ideas were completely out of the question. Fast forward to December 2025, and we have Pilestedts stating in the A Democratic Conversation video that
8-player missions would be one of those larger open world maps where maybe you could come across other Helldivers team to then take on bigger challenges together. Operations that affect other teams as well would be those kind of level of features.
Okay, I want to come back to that video, but now let's jump back just 3 weeks from today's date to the Main Quest podcast with games director Mikkel Eriksson in the guest spot, and we hear him talking about something that is more of a fantasy to have in the game, or something that isn't in the game that they have hopes for, and he mentions the Battle of Helms Deep, or at least that kind of moment in the game of Helldivers. One massive map along with, he says specifically, 400 players defending to the bitter end. Take a listen.
What I'm saying is basically, if you would be in, you have like 400 I shouldn't say a number. Let's say many friendly NPCs or other players facing off against like hordes of other enemies. So it's more of that sort of, imagine like a medieval combat, 2 armies clashing, or like Helm's Deep scene or something like that. That we don't have yet. It's still very much. Apart like the first step we took towards that was we added Thief soldiers for the Battle for Super Earth.
That's right.
So when you're playing in the cities, you can have friendly NPCs that, and sometimes they can be like, I don't know, let's say more than 5 can help you. So it's a little bit. There's more. You and your 3 squad mates and these friendly NPCs, but we don't have the 100 friendlies against like 100 enemies. We don't have that yet, and it's mainly because of like tech limitations. But we'll work our way through that, and we'll find some solution where that can allow for this to happen.
Might I point out that Mikkel mentions that the Thief soldiers were used as a test to see how the NPCs in battle could look alongside you and your squad mates, and it's already evolved further into becoming a mission modifier. And so as of a month ago, Mikkel may have been covering some breadcrumbs here and there in saying that this is sort of the thing that is a little ways off due to tech limitations, but that they'll work their way through it and find a solution. So neither confirming nor denying the possibility of a Helm's Deep-like battle on the horizon. So September 2025, we're told no. 3 months later, December 2025, we're told possibly. 1 month ago from the date of this upload, we're told definitely possible. And so today we find ourselves in one of the most interesting and unnerving story arcs of the game so far. We were let down by the invasion of Cyberstan. It was gone before it was even here. So it's in Arrowhead's best interests that the Void delivers. And I think that's the direction that we seem to be building toward. I believe that the Battle of Helm's Deep and what led up to it has been unfolding in parallel in Helldivers 2 from the beginnings of the liberation of Mesa to wherever August 25th is going to take us. In the events leading to the Battle of Helm's Deep, a strategic plan was hatched by Saruman. Inside the pits of Isengard, he created a new breed of orc that were far superior to anything previously, and he did this in secret, beneath a mountain and appearing as a non-threat to everyone on the outside. And so before Rowan of Middle-earth could understand what was being built, there was already thousands upon thousands of orcs marching to battle. The Void is a pocket-like dimension operating under completely different physics to our own understanding. The Illuminate have been using it to mutate and transform planets into their own making, and building forces with it that nobody on Super Earth knew existed. We, the Helldivers, had only just breached the Void following the Census Thunder campaign, and what they're finding is a corrupted world full of unimaginable horrors. And scientists drilling towards its center are also reporting strange rhythmic sounds and singing of geometry. Something enormous is already built and it's waiting inside. And so if we put both of these cases together and look at them in parallel, we'll see that the threat existed long before anyone was looking for it in both cases, and the scale of what was being prepared was only revealed when it was already too late. Grima Wormtongue infiltrated Theoden's ranks as Saruman's agent, permanently feeding him words of doubt, amplifying his grief until the king was a shell of his former self and still sitting on the throne of Rohan, but absolutely in no shape to lead an army into the battle that was slowly boiling underneath their noses. A traitor rubbing shoulders with the king is definitely a way of weakening your enemy's defenses before the war has even begun. During the campaign of Permanent Enclosure, the Automatons had begun running a disinformation campaign of an extraordinary scale. Orders to liberate Mesa was set due to loyal citizens being subjected to, and I quote, a constant deluge of attempts to distort reality, over 10 million a day according to the Ministry of Truth. Intel determined that a cyborg cyber attack had been located to a facility from which the dissidents and lies had been broadcast, an interstellar communications array on Mesa. Gandalf had to drive Grima from Theoden's court before Rohan could defend itself, and players had to liberate Mesa before Super Earth could trust its own weapons program. Both are acts of psychological warfare, eroding the will to fight before the physical battle even begins. The Mesa Liberation Major Order exists for one reason, which was to find the source of the lies and destroy it before the psychological damage becomes irreversible. Saruman's creations didn't march straight to Helm's Deep. They made sure that the message was clear and that they were here for annihilation. The orcs burned all surrounding villages, settlements were erased, leaving thousands of displaced refugees, with only one place left to go. The last stronghold, that is Helm's Deep. Upon failing major orders to defend the surrounding planets, the Illuminate had made landfall. On May 20th, 2025, the battle for Super Earth had begun, with the heart of democracy at stake. The streets of humanity's homeworld became a battlefield. City by city, Helldivers fought to retake their own planet. That's not a looming threat on the horizon. That's Westfold burning. The enemy has already reached the gates. Now this is the parallel that's furthest along. Rohan's village is burned on the way to Helm's Deep. Super Earth has already been invaded, so whatever comes next is probably the siege itself. As this is a recent event and still unfolding, I wanted to make sure we're all aware of what's happening with the Democracy Space Station right now, just to provide some context. Fortunately, the Wikipedia provides a concise explanation of the situation that reads as follows. Exactly 1 hour and 30 minutes after the DSS jumped to Calypso, both the system and the station itself disappeared from the galactic map. Calypso had seemingly completely disappeared from the galactic map with no trace of what happened to it. All contact with the planet was severed, and all FTL lines to the planet were destroyed as Calypso went missing. The mystery sent shockwaves throughout the Helldiver Corps, who could not believe what was transpiring. Yet the strangest of all, High Command's next dispatch was normal. No mention of the disappearance of Calypso was made, and all that High Command stated was that the DSS was now undergoing an environmental optimization cycle and was now to be docked at Afoye Bay. The space station docked at Afoye Bay at exactly midnight SEST time zone on August 21st, and there has been no further dispatches since. All the while, an entire planetary system remains missing, with seemingly no rational explanation thus far. Theoden was Rohan's shield, its king, its commander, the one man who could have rallied an army and sent riders to villages, towns, and other kingdoms to prepare for what was coming. Wormtongue didn't need to kill him, he just needed to make him inert, and he succeeded. By the time the orcs were already on the march, Rohan's greatest military asset was sitting on a throne, unable to make a decision, surrounded by a court too afraid to speak openly. Rohan's shield didn't break under enemy fire. It was removed before the war had even begun.
How did it come to this?
The Democracy Space Station is the Helldivers' single most powerful orbital asset, a collective weapon of democracy that the community somewhat controls, until Super Earth High Command decides to disable its manual controls under odd circumstances. The DSS has been making unauthorized FTL jumps. It's also broadcast cryptic messages about environmental optimization, sanitization, maintenance, and bioremediation before going dark. It then reappeared near a foyer bay without explanation. The station built to protect Super Earth is now operating entirely outside of the Helldivers Authority, for reasons no one is disclosing. In both cases, the information exists. The warning is being sent, but the system that should carry such messages upward is being deliberately cut short. Not because the message is wrong, but because the message is inconvenient to whoever is in control. The night before the battle, the Rohirrim on the walls, the gates shut, thousands of torches stretching further than the eye can follow, moving in perfect formation towards the fortress. The battle hasn't even started. No command has been given, but the count is already irreversible. The army committed, and still all that remains is to hold the wall and wait for dawn.
Let's hope they last the night.
August 25th is within 24 hours of this upload. Sorry, I work full time. But there's been a lot of speculation around this date. Tuesday is seen as update day to the community, and that date is also coinciding with Gamescom. Now, the very last time we were introduced to the Illuminate was at the Omens of Tyranny release at the last Gamescom, and we were introduced to this via a small little piece of symbolism, connecting both their introduction and wherever we find ourselves now. My plan for this video was to convince you that the makings of this scenario that I think is unfolding right now coincides with Lord of the Rings being used as the playbook to lead the current story arc to a Helms Deep-like event in Helldivers 2. Some of the precursors, I believe, are the Seath soldiers being promoted from the occasional wandering NPC to now active mission modifiers dropping in solid numbers on a single map. We know that there were tech limitations and allegedly that was a barrier, but that a solution will be found. No doubt or anything, just we'll find a way. And so in hearing that a Helms Deep-like event was a situation that Mikael Eriksson, the games director, said Helldivers 2 was missing and didn't have yet, led to me asking whether or not that the essential space D&D campaign that we're currently traversing through has in fact been a playbook from Lord of the Rings, and that several events leading up to the Battle of Helm's Deep have been used. Now, if the game can handle 400 NPCs on the map at any given time, could a number be removed and introduce 4 new Helldivers maybe? Because if we're talking of a Helm's Deep-like battle ensuing, I would imagine the Illuminate would be the perfect faction to do it with, seeing as a previous enemy thought to be extinct from the first Galactic War suddenly shows up, they attack Super Earth, now they're swallowing planets into a void. Enough's enough, right? And so to summarize, Saruman built his army in the dark, and the Illuminate built theirs in the void. Grima poisoned Theoden's mind, and the Automaton disinformation did the same to the faith in Termicide. The Westfold burned, and so did the streets of Super Earth. Calypso vanished from the map just as Theoden's court went silent, and when the DSS went dark, it mirrored the moment Rohan's king lost his voice entirely. Now, the Illuminate are jamming signals, suppressing what's being found inside the void, and something in there is listening back. The torches are on the horizon. In the film, Helm's Deep is held, but only just. Whether Helldivers 2 actually gets its Helm's Deep moment is to be decided tomorrow. So if you've got this far in the video, just a big thanks, and if you've liked it enough, why not give it a like and even maybe subscribe if you fancy your time here. If you've got any sort of comparisons or objections or any other ideas that might link Lord of the Rings and Helldivers 2 together, leave them in the comment section down below, because it's fun to speculate, and we all know Arrowhead are all D&D nuts and fantasy fan, so it's kind of cool to just speculate. I like this sort of stuff, but yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Sorry it got a bit rushed at the end. Gamescom comes out pretty soon, and the intention of my video was to get this out as soon as possible. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you got this far, cheers, and I'll see you in the next one.